is a quick sort of overview run of show situation. I'll kick it off. I'm going to introduce all the speakers. Some of them will still be able to stay later if you see some opportunities for one-on-one media opportunities. So I'm Zach Friend. I'm chair of the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors as well as chair of the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency. And we are today at a defining moment in the over 75-year history of this river levee, where we've been looking for some sense of hope to transition from fear of flooding for generations. And we've moved now into a situation as we move toward construction of a new day. And we still have not just this winter to weather, but future winters to weather during construction. We know we're not out of the woods yet. But we're moving towards something that we just haven't seen here in generations, which is an opportunity to rebuild the levee for communities that deserve it. And it couldn't have been done without all the folks that are here in the room. And I'm going to kick it off first by introducing one of our state partners who's had an enormous role in this, and the governor's also played an enormous role in this. So if you could please welcome up here to speak, Karla Nemeth, who's the director of the Department of Water Resources. Karla, good to see you.
Good morning. It's great to be here. It's a little bit cooler to be out at the levee, but I know we've all been there quite a few times now. But I just want to capitalize on something Zach mentioned, which is this is a tremendous moment for the community. But we also have to take stock of why the heck did it take so long? We certainly would not be here without the leadership of Senator Laird, Speaker Rivas, Congressman Lofgren, Congressman Panetta, and Major Glass. And it really does take an enormous amount of leadership to identify the fact that we have communities that are very vulnerable here in California, more vulnerable given the effects of climate change and the intensity of the storms, the growing intensity we anticipate experiencing, and the true impact it has on communities. And last year was just, unfortunately, just a very challenging moment, and I think we can all, if we didn't before, we can now really appreciate how problematic it is if we don't do the work we need to do to protect everybody. It's extraordinarily disruptive to families, to communities, to the local economy, and we need to do better, and we can do better, which is why today is just terrific. So I just want to start by saying just this morning, $47 million of state funding to help support this project. Just an extraordinary thank you to Senator Laird and Speaker Rivas for making that happen. We would not be here without it, so thank you. And I also want to acknowledge Supervisor Alejo, who has been a tremendous leader and supporter of, and maybe perennial thorn in the side in the best of way possible to say, can't we do something different for our communities here in Pajaro. So I'm deeply honored to be here to celebrate this, especially at the start, a bit drier than normal. We're about 30% of typical precipitation at this time of year. But that doesn't mean we're not getting ready. So lots of work is happening between the department and the counties and the communities to make sure that we are prepared for any rainy season that comes our way. We have positioned in California 2.5 million sandbags. Some are pre-positioned here locally, understanding the conditions on the ground. And we will be there together with our local partners every step of the way as we get through this season and as we work to protect communities from flooding. And for all folks in the community, thank you for everything that you're doing to be prepared. That is the single most important thing you can do to keep you and your families safe. And so with that, I know we have quite a few speakers today, but it is my deep honor to be here to help celebrate with you all and such tremendous leadership that has enabled all of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Nemeth. As was was mentioned, it takes a lot of partners, and the Army Corps of Engineers is clearly one of the most major partners associated with this, whether it's in San Francisco or Washington, D.C., two places that it feels as though I basically have an honorary office in with your team. You have been wonderful, and you have some of your reps here who have been just steadfast in their support of this project, elevating this issue to the administration in any way that they can, and I think that they need to be acknowledged as well. They like to stand in the background, but you have there's people that just get stuff done for your team, sir, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that you've got some hard workers here. So if we could welcome up, if you could give a hand for our Major Glass here, who's going to give some words on behalf of the Army Corps.
First off, I want to thank our partners that are in attendance, Congressman Panetta, Congresswoman Lofgren, California Senator Laird, California Assembly Speaker Rivas, Department of Water Resources Director Nemeth, and of course, Zach Friend. Strong support and persistence from the region's congressional delegation, local, state, and federal, along with active public engagement have been key to the project's success. We want to thank local officials, PRIFMA, for their efforts to this project through the planning phase and into construction. This project is funded through federal, state, and local community investments. And at the conclusion of the ceremony, we'll sign the project partnership agreement, which will lay out the roles and responsibilities of the federal government, non-federal sponsors and cost sharing, and the execution of work. A project of this scale would not succeed without the strong, unyielding support from a collective energy everyone has provided. So Lieutenant Colonel Sylvester, Stu Townsley, and I thank the members of Congress who support this project and have provided supportive amount of funding through federal appropriation, as well as support another crucial partner has provided, and that's the state of California. Without strong support to remove administrative barriers on all fronts, local, state, and federal, we would not be here today. Our collective vision, in just a few short years of concerted effort by the region's congressional delegation, has resulted in $149 million in federal bipartisan infrastructure law funding for this project. We are now ready for execution and anticipate kicking off construction in the summer of 2024. Important to note, it's great to see projects make a positive impact to historically underserved communities. In fact, one of our district's strategic goals of delivering value and benefit equally. We would implement engineer with nature solutions to build a safe, more resilient levee system, one that will harness natural solutions to help manage flood risk in the context of our changing climate. Finally, flood risk management is of the utmost importance to the Corps and our partners, and this agreement is indicative of the commitment we all share in making the communities along the Pajaro River safer. I want to thank everyone who came out today to mark this milestone as we move one step closer toward constructing a stronger, more resilient levee system for this community. Thank you, everybody.
So just to put this a little bit into context and perspective, this project has, or this river has, one of the lowest level of flood protections of any federally funded project in the United States, and the lowest known in the state of California. This project also, so getting this funded, to say it's an uphill battle would be an understatement. The state of California, we're the only project known to the Army Corps in the United States where the entire local share, 100%, was covered by the state. And it was done because these two gentlemen are sitting in front of me here, and I'm going to introduce one of them here in a second. Somebody who, one of the first phone calls that came to me immediately after there was a breach, this situation came from, this last winter came from Speaker Rivas, who represents this area. Speaker, you've been a very, very strong voice for this community and across the state, and we wouldn't necessarily be where we are today without your leadership in the state. Please welcome Speaker Rivas.
and appreciate that introduction, Zach. And really, it's not only my voice, but it's our collective voice. We're very lucky in this region to have incredible leadership from Washington to Sacramento, and Jimmy Panetta, who's been fighting for many of these changes for quite a number of years, and then obviously Zoe Lofgren, and then John Laird. I've known John for 20 plus years, and he and I work so well together in the legislature, and I often joke how he's cost me money because when he got elected to the Senate, I had to buy a new cell phone with more memory. Because in the Senate and Assembly, we work in the same building, but we rarely ever interact or see each other. And so John would leave me these long messages that would take out all my memory in my phone, 4 or 5 minutes long, but he's so thorough, and I wouldn't have to call him back because it was all in the message. But we work so well together, especially when it comes to this issue here in Pajaro. Mark Stone, who isn't here, who is such an important a colleague and a partner in all this as well. When we talk about the historic action that was done, was really John Laird did that lift. John and Mark Stone was there to be supportive and obviously help, but we met in the press conference about 1.5 years ago, right, John? And so John will go ahead and get to the details about that. But why this is so important is for many of us, we know Pajaro, this is a resilient community, and this is a special place here, a special place on the Central Coast. And this community absolutely understands the importance of working hard, but more importantly of working together to get things done. Because there's no better example than this Levee project about working together to get things done. And now as a result of the ceaseless advocacy and dedication, our state will begin to work on this overdue levee, and it will allow us to upgrade, to make these upgrades on our waterways here. And this is significant, as was mentioned. I can't, I have to acknowledge Zach Friend, who, learning about the importance of this levee system and what we needed to do to get these fixes and to get to this point. I heard about it from Zach Friend, and he helped coordinate, this meeting between all of the stakeholders and my staff in Sacramento. So I'm so appreciative of all your advocacy and work, Zach. But certainly, why this is significant is this is going to keep our region safer by expediting these improvements by years. We're talking, this recent action is we're able to shave off years from the construction of these levees and provide over 100-year flood protection for this region, and that is significant. And it's important because obviously time matters. Each passing year, our escalating climate crisis, it raises the stakes for all of our communities along our state's waterways, not only here but across the state. And as this community knows, as this region knows, what washes away when these levees break, it's stability, it's safety, and it's opportunity. I recently read a story about a teenager named Zdenia Escutia, who lives here in this region with her family. She had recently been accepted to UCLA. Incredible story. And this was just prior to the flooding. This was for she and her family, this is a life-changing opportunity to go to UCLA. But after the flooding and the tragedy that she and her family experienced, she decided to not go to UCLA, to stay home so she could help support her family. And that's heartbreaking, because it's a choice that no young person should have to make, especially from a disadvantaged community and a region such as this. And it's certainly, we need to do better. And as speaker, I am always going to fight relentlessly to make this situation right for Pajaronians and for this region and for our most vulnerable across the state. Certainly work incredibly hard for this community's future, for this community's safety, and to ensure that we have equity in all of our communities across California. When we talk about a situation such as this, where these repairs should have occurred decades ago, this is an important moment for us today, but something that we've got to understand and highlight that it shouldn't have taken this type of effort. It shouldn't have taken this long to get this stuff done and completed, and so we have to do better. And so I want to thank those who have done this work. Again, Congressmembers Zoe Lofgren, Jimmy Panetta, the Army Corps of Engineers, our governor, who has really been a true partner in all of this. I can't thank him enough. Obviously, my friend, Senator Laird, Supervisor Zach Friend, and really all of our state and local partners, Supervisor Alejo, Supervisor Hernandez, and also want to acknowledge the many organizations that we've been working with, all of us at the regional level, the Second Harvest Food Bank of Santa Cruz, the Center for Farm Worker Families, the Community Action Board of Santa Cruz, Casa de la Cultura Center in Pajaro, Catholic Charities of Monterey County, and certainly I know that there are many others who have stepped up, and certainly myself and my colleagues, we all remain very grateful to all the work that you do here in this region. And certainly we have a lot more work to do, but certainly look forward to doing that work with all of you. Thank you so much.
Well, I would say that there's nobody in this room with a stronger through line on this entire project than the next speaker, from working at the county to time in the state assembly to the administration to time in the state senate. But let me say real quickly in my introduction to Senator Laird here, when Mark Strudley and I met with him a couple of years ago, and he said, when we were talking about the issue, which he was intimately familiar, he said, "What do you actually need?" And we said, what we need to get the 100% of the local share covered by the state government, something that had never been done, not just in California, but that hadn't been done in the entire United States. And he said, okay. And he said, but this is it. This is the only thing, because this is a monumental ask. And we said, of course, it's the only thing we're going to ask of you. So of course he does that, and then we came back to him and said, so about the environmental and about getting this project a little bit expedited, is that possible if you and Speaker Rivas could maybe take a leadership role on that? And of course they did another pretty significant act that's allowing us to move into construction faster. So you were very, very fortunate, Speaker Rivas had noted, to have this level of talent in the state delegation to really elevate the voice of a community that has not been elevated for decades. So Senator Laird, I'd like to welcome you up here and thank you for all your work on this project.
Well, when we celebrated at the levee the fact that this has been fully funded, Senator Alex Padilla was there, and he said, if I had a nickel for everybody that mentioned the mid-1990s and what happened here, I'd be a rich man. And so I said to him, well, I'm going to owe you a nickel. Because I was a county manager in those years, and one of the few that spoke Spanish at the time, so I slept overnight at the fairgrounds and monitored the people that had been evacuated from Pajaro during the break. And then there I am at the fairgrounds this past year, thinking to myself, I think I'm looking at the kids from the 1990s that are now the parents in the same evacuation. And it is a thing that I think has driven us in making sure that there's a solution. And when Zach says the through line is, so in 2006, when I was in the Assembly, I did a bill that allowed for the state share for the levee project. And then I was budget chair when we negotiated Proposition 1E, the flood measure. I made sure there was money for the Pajaro project in the flood measure to implement the bill. And then Bill Monning was my successor in the Assembly, did a bill to allow the locals to access that in advance of the project being done. And then lo and behold, as Zach was mentioning, it topped out at 70%. There was a 30% local requirement for the non-federal share, and they were turning away grants because they were capped out at the state. And so Robert and I did the bill that was mentioned that was unprecedented, that did allow for 100% state buyout that hadn't happened anywhere else. And I have to say, I'm so glad that Karla Nemeth is here, because she was instrumental in helping in that. We did some negotiations for amendments, and she, in those conversations, said, I know who's affected here. I know how important this is. We have to do this. And so that level of commitment from the administration really made the difference, and it was done. And then you have Jimmy and Zoe, and Jimmy at one point says, do you know anybody in the Army of Corps of Engineers? I happen to know the Assistant Secretary of the Army who's over the Corps of Engineers, so Jimmy triggers me calling him so that we make sure we're doing a full court press. And then Zoe comes into the picture where, you know, some of this was new to her, and it's just a tribute to the partnership that completely existed all the way on this. And then you get to, Robert was very modest, but it was sort of a role reversal, so he stepped up to expedite the state processes, and I joined with him, but that helped move the bill this year without a lot of problems. And then because we have the human impact, we got money in the budget to help continue services to people at the fairgrounds who were just cut out of everything just because we couldn't get to the time that the Levee project was done. And so it's been an incredible team thing, and it has gone on forever. And I think one of the things that was disconcerting to me is that people were really worried about the early parts of the fight for this Levee project, and the fact that there was a feeling this was a disadvantaged community and people didn't care about it. Well, in the last 2 or 3 years, it was because it was a disadvantaged community that legislation was adopted, money released, and I think a real change in the narrative of this story, and that is an important thing to note. So, so I just want to thank everybody, and it was a bit disconcerting when I looked at the program and it said 6 people with brief comments, it'll take 35 minutes. So I don't want to extend that, but it is a great joy to celebrate with the many different partners, a great victory and something that is unprecedented in the state of California and other places. So thanks to everybody in the room, including all of you.
You know, our federal partners, we're clearly not going to be here without your work today. And while Congresswoman Lofgren, who's coming up next, has just started to represent this area, this is not, you're not new to this interest. You and I have met on this repeatedly in your office, even though it wasn't something that was in your district, which goes to show how much you care about this region. And I have to say, I've seen Congresswoman Lofgren in Watsonville more than I feel like even I'm in Watsonville and I represent the area. In the last year, you've been an amazing partner for Watsonville in the last year, and you've been an exceptionally strong voice on this project. Congresswoman Lofgren, all of your advice that you've given us as we've met with you over the course of the years on this project has been spot on ways to do advocacy. So, and it says everything, the fact that you're here today, about how much you care about it. Please welcome Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren.
Well, thanks very much, and Zach is right. Because of the Citizens Redistricting Commission, all the districts were scrambled, and I had the honor of representing Watsonville and Pajaro. Of course, Jimmy, who will speak next, goes all the way from Cambria up to Evergreen and San Jose, so they're all new. I'd only been representing this area for a few weeks when the floods came. You know, we leapt into action, and it was heartbreaking to go over to the fairgrounds, to meet with the people who had lost everything, and to be re-energized on the need to get this done. I remember Senator Laird speaking at the celebration of getting all the funding, saying, I hope this gets done before the floods came, and then the floods came. So this is an important day. We will be signing the project partnership agreement. Maybe that doesn't sound so important, but it's really the kickoff of getting this construction done. And you know, one of my predecessors in office said, you know, everything has been said, but not everyone has said it. That may be true of people here at the end of the remarks, but something that hasn't been said is how lucky we are to have such talented, smart, hard-working representatives in the state legislature. I mean, they are unbelievably talented. I am so grateful that Rivas and Laird are where they are, because this would not have happened without them. And I want to thank also the Board of Supervisors and the City Council here who is so focused on getting this done and preventing future disasters. And of course, I'm new to this district, but Jimmy has been fighting for funding, and I've been standing next to him for a long, long time. Just a final word. You know, it used to be in the prior administration there would be Infrastructure Week every week, and it became kind of a joke, Infrastructure Week. Well, the leadership changed in the White House, the Congress changed, and we know, our Speaker Nancy Pelosi used to say, diversity is our strength. We're a very diverse group of Democrats, but unity is our power. And so we sorted through all of the issues, and instead of an Infrastructure Week joke, we did the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which provided funds for necessary work all over the United States, including this. So I'd like to celebrate not only the funding, not only the change that allowed that to happen, but also our President, Joe Biden. Things changed when he came into office. We no longer disadvantage communities. And so let's celebrate what's about to happen, and with thanks to all of the people who worked so hard, including the Army Corps and the state partners, I'm looking forward to some ribbon cutting and celebrations when this is done. Thank you very much.
So our final speaker before we move on to the signing component of it, this project was stuck in neutral at the federal level for over 70 years. And I can't underscore the challenges of the meetings after meetings and the complexity of the funding structure and the structural situation that just completely leaves out disadvantaged communities across the United States when it comes to federal flood funding. We needed to take a different look at it. We needed to take a different approach towards this situation. We needed to change the underlying rules of engagement. And we worked in twofold. Worked with the successive administration, starting with the Obama administration, got some initial changes that set the stage. For a few years, we were unable to really move the needle as far as the administration was concerned. And then Congressman Panetta came into office, and one of our very first discussions, he said, what's the most important issue to you? And I said, this river levee. I said, for 75 years, they've had no voice. I mean, we can change this. And he did. I mean, he literally went about changing federal law to ensure that they could start considering, the Army Corps could start considering new elements. Weekly calls, not with staff, with Congressman Panetta, with the Army Corps leadership in Washington, D.C., demanding that there be a change in this component. Repeatedly bringing me out to help advocate on this with the administration and with him. And then at about 4:30 in the morning, I received a phone call from the White House saying, we funded your project. And I texted Jimmy, who of course was up, and he said he already knew, but this was our first conversation. It was just a celebration. It was this relief that after 75 years of fighting for something, we could finally deliver on this promise for the communities that had nothing. But Congressman Panetta, you have to understand that without you, we're not sitting here today. The ground isn't breaking next year, and future generations in the Pajaro Valley don't have the safety and security, both economically and life safety. That is because of the work that you did. So I'd like to bring you up here, Congressman Panetta, for your work.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. It's true. Zach, Speaker Rivas, I completely understand what you mean about having that guidance that Supervisor Friend provided. Obviously, as you heard from him, but I can stand here and tell you, he really was that sort of kind of angel on my shoulder or in my phone, in my ear, constantly telling me about the importance of this project. But as Congressman Lofgren said, it's always tough to go last because everything has been said. But I guess I can kind of sum this project up and sort of at a top level to say that this Pajaro River Flood Risk Management Project really is about prioritizing people, partnerships, and pressure. Because as I sensed early on, and as we've seen recently, the pressure was needed at all levels of government to get to this point as to where we are. I think that's why this is our, 37th press conference we've had about this project, because we want to highlight not just the work that's been done. We want to make sure that everybody understands the pressure, the constant pressure that has been put on all levels of government, that will need to continue to be put on all levels of government to get this done. Now, obviously, when I came into Congress, I sensed that that is what was needed at the federal level of government. And I can tell you that's why the relationship that we had with the Army Corps of Engineers turned into a partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. And they were right there on board with us once they felt that pressure. And I can tell you, Major Glass, Stu Townsley in your office deserves a lot of credit. Because once he came in there, once he got involved, you saw a change in attitudes. There were a lot of people up in the San Francisco office that did a lot of work on this, but I can tell you his attitude that he brought to the table for this project was something that I believe was a motivating force up there in San Francisco and built that pressure and that partnership. And that partnership is the foundation that we're seeing here at all levels of government. And we are so, I feel so blessed to have someone as a colleague like Representative Lofgren, who now represents this area and fully understands what this project is about. I mean, I kind of look at myself, I'm kind of the brawn. She's the brains when it comes to a lot of how we were able to get these things done and understanding the mechanics and how the federal government works when it comes to funding. So I truly appreciate her partnership. And how lucky are we to have these two, the Speaker and the Senator, up there fighting for us, two local boys done real good up in California who understand what it takes to get things done. And then, of course, at the county level, Mark Studley, I didn't mispronounce his name, Mark Studley, truly has been a pressure point when it comes. And then, of course, our supervisors here in Santa Cruz and in Monterey County, Luis and Glenn. Thanks to all three of you, and thanks to all the work that you guys are doing at this level to get us to this point where we're getting this project started. Pressure, partnership, we came together because it is about protecting people. And I can tell you, the first person that came to me and really talked me through what was wrong with the process was Zach Brown. When he sat there and sat me down and said, look, the benefit cost ratio analysis that they do to determine their projects is absolutely unfair. It doesn't take into account the products of the Pajaro Valley. It doesn't take into account the people of the Pajaro Valley. And that message is the message that I carried with me in my meetings in Congress, in my meetings at the White House, and our meetings with the administration to get them to change that analysis. And we did that, as you heard, with the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That, as Senator Laird said so articulately, that changed our analysis, taking into account people, not using it against us, but using it as a positive to get projects. And that is how we're able to get $149 million in funding to start this project off. So it is about protecting people, it's about protecting products of the Pajaro Valley, and I can tell you it's about protecting everybody from the seniors who are over on Bridge Street to the farm workers and families who are there on Bishop Street in the Pajaro, and yes, to our producers in the fields in the Pajaro Valley. I can also mention Karen and Clint Miller, who are also there basically on my shoulder telling us basically this project needs to get completed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we can all of us stand here and be very proud of the work, of the pressure, of the partnership and of our public service to continue to protect people. That's how we're commencing this project, but it's also how we're going to complete this project going forward. So thanks to all of you at all levels of government, at all levels of our community, to ensure that not only we're at this point where we have this signing today, but to where we finish this in the future. Thank you.
All right, Major Glass, will you please join me up here so we can sign the paperwork? Great appreciation for everybody that came today, significant appreciation for the President and his leadership on this project. And we will sign and make it official.
Being tall, it's gonna go high.
Must be nice. I'm just gonna steal pictures from Jason. Derek, you're so tall, I have your wrist.
Sorry.
Thank you. I know that we'll be here for stand-ups if you'd like to